I just want to talk about hustle culture and self-help books. These books are really generating. There is this dopamine that you get from reading these self-help books. If you're hooked, it is like a drug. It's a scam. It's becoming a trend again. Understand that there are books that are just written to hook you, to make you stay in that circle. Hey everyone, welcome to Abraham's Global Insights, the podcast where we dive deep into powerful ideas, global perspectives, and transformative insights that shape our world. I'm truly grateful that you're here, and I appreciate you investing your time in learning and growing. Whether you're driving to work, unwinding at home, hitting the gym, or just taking a moment for yourself, this is your space to gain new perspectives and challenge the way you see the world. I bring you insights from books, podcasts, interviews, and in-studio conversations with incredible guests, so there is always something new to learn. If you enjoy the show, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now let's dive in. So growing up, I didn't have the chance to read as many books as I wanted. But here and there were magazines, newspapers, and things of that nature to read. Still, the need was there to read big books because we heard of them from the movies that we watch or the TV shows that we watch here and there. Not the TV shows and the movies that we have today and back then are not equal as at the same time. So today, I just want to talk about what the hustle culture and the self-help books are doing in the country, in Ethiopia, and what used to happen before. If you had the chance to come to Ethiopia and visit the streets of Ethiopia and think of reading a book, maybe you wouldn't go to a bookstore, or you may not have, if you don't have a proper guide, you may not have a chance to go to a bookstore to buy books. So you would resort to a book vendor on the streets of Addis. So if you go through the books that they have to sell you on the roads of the streets of Addis, most of the books that they have are self-help books or self-development books from the West, from mostly America or England or countries from around that area. So if you need books that are somehow related to life in the other side, it could be politics or economy or psychology or maybe brain science or something like that, chances are you wouldn't find those books from the vendors in these streets. So these self-help books, self-development books are everywhere in the big cities of Ethiopia. The reason I believe is, one, people need them. There is a demand for this kind of books. Two, not only people need them, but these books are becoming like something that people depend on. So what this reminded me of is the self-help culture or the development book culture that used to happen in the Western countries and not happening anymore, I believe, or it's happening in a very small extent than it used to happen before. So I had my chances to read the self-help books in my times as a high school student and a university student. So not only I read these books, but I shared these books with friends and people I meet in different walks of lives. I shared the ideas I got from these books and told people that there is a very important lesson to learn from this book, so I recommended that they read a specific book. I remember this time I brought a book from somewhere in Addis, a book written by Dale Carnegie about influencing friends and having an impact on people. I don't exactly remember the title of the book because I read it maybe 20 something years ago. So I started reading the book and it was amazing. But most of the ideas in the book were not something practical, something that I would try on my family members or my friends. And I kept reading other books because there is this dopamine effect, or there is this dopamine that you get from reading these self-help books. You don't stop reading once you start reading one of them. So I read another book by Stephen Covey, and followed by another book written by another author from the US. So that became my culture. I saw my life. I try to analyze what I changed in my life, but I found out later that I didn't change anything in my life. I used to have that epiphany, that motivation every day, going through the books and reading the techniques, understanding the techniques, but I didn't apply any of the techniques in my life or in my work, in my education. It was just something that I was inspired by. And I tried telling people that the points or the ideas from this book, that is some specific book, are very powerful and they have to apply it. So not only was I reading or getting whatever I got from these books, but I was making it a culture in my circle to read the self-help books. I tried analyzing what the results from the reading of these books was. And I realized that there is something I'm gaining from these books. That thing was understanding a language. English was not as prominent as it is today. It was something of a practice by the elites. So it was considered to be a prestige to speak it or to practice speaking English. So we didn't have any other chance to get other mediums. For example, television or movies or TV shows. There was no podcast. We didn't have access to media houses to watch news or things of that sort. So my friend and myself resorted to reading these kind of books, but the result was not impactful or as impactful that we thought that it would be. Then I went to law school, started studying law. Law is about practice. It's about really powerful ideas. It's about lives of people and how impactful it could be if you miss a step or if you do something wrong, that you are affecting the lives of individuals. So that made me stop reading because I didn't have time to read these self-help books. Law school actually helped me be far away from self-development books. Now I notice after some years, like 17 years or 16 years, I noticed that it's becoming a trend again in the streets of Addis, and vendors everywhere have these books to sell to individuals. I really questioned a lot of things in between and understood that the reason I was not getting anything from those self-help books that I read back in those days was because I was not practicing anything I was reading. It was just only reading and talking about those ideas that I got from the books with friends, sharing the ideas on it. I mean, the sharing part was fantastic. People would have an inspiration, people would be motivated to do stuff, to do things, but at the end of the day, if you're not intentional about whatever you're reading and if you're not practicing it, it would amount to nothing. I try to check my friends, the friends that used to read these self-development books with me. Most of them are not in the places or in places that I would think they should be. Or they're not in places that they have to be. So I again analyzed the problem being that we're not practicing whatever we're getting from those books. Not only that, we're not practicing it, we're not taking action on the ideas from the books. We were not intentional about reading those books. It was just for the sake of understanding the language and then sharing the idea that we were reading. So that was our problem. What was the problem of the books? The problem of the books that we read, and I see these days, these self-help books do have a still. One, these books are really generic. These books are not context specific, or they're not written for a society such as ours. And these books are written to get money, so commercialization is there. And as the dopamine effect is known or understood by the authors or the companies that are hiring the authors to write, the end result that was expected by the companies or the billionaires behind writing these books or now releasing the videos, motivational videos, is profit. So commercialization was a profit, the intention. So they wouldn't want you to be away from reading these books. If you're hooked, it is like a drug. But you're not practicing anything, no change is coming in your life. But the people who wrote the book tells you that their life is this and that. They're driving this and that kind of car. They're practicing this and that kind of thing in their lives. Their kids are going to this school, but nothing is happening to your life. You question a lot of things. So I see that's becoming a culture in my country. What used to be a culture, I know, in the West 10 or more than that years ago, and I was really worried. Alongside this self-development books being rampant in the streets of Addis, other major cities in Ethiopia, there is a concept, an idea that is coming and being practiced alongside self-development books, the culture of the hustle culture. People doing all kinds of things to achieve a life, to be successful, and sleeping only maybe 3 hours or 4 hours a day, and the rest of the times engaging in endless activities, but not being intentional about whatever result they want. Don't get me wrong. If you have a value attached to the hustle culture, or if there is any value that you really think is important in your life and you're going after it, you're applying the value, you're living for your values, I don't have anything against that because I live by that. I do all kinds of things for my values. But if it is because music says or because a movie says that you have to strive day in, day out, non-stop, 24 hours, without being intentional about what you're thinking to achieve at the end, I don't think that's going to help you in any way. But still, I see it in my family, I see it in my surrounding, my environs, that people are thinking of working 24/7, productivity being the end result, but they're not intentional. It is about winning today or about achieving something today. It's not about whatever is in the long term or whatever is after 10 or 20 years in your life. I don't think that's going to help you in any way, shape, or form. I don't think that would help your family, the relatives you have, people you have around you. I know it used to be a culture, it is still a culture in the West. So people that you admire, people that you think are achieving a life, winning a life, are doing it. They are preaching it through their songs, through their music, through the pop culture they have, including music, TV shows, or movies they have. But the glamour that they show you in the TVs, the glamour they show you in the movies or any kind of medium is, I don't think, real. Besides the context that we're living in, the life we have in here is not the same with the life they have out there. So if you're not intentional, if your value is not there, for example, you're hustling day in, day out for something that you don't believe in, but because it's paying you the money, it's paying the rents, or affording you to have all kind of gadgets that you want for today, tomorrow a burnout will come and you resent everything that you did. At the end, you're not benefiting, only the corporations or the companies that are selling this thing and wanting it to be something that is trendy all over the world will benefit out of that, because they will get money, they will get your attention, and once they get your attention, you'll be hooked and they will say you again. I don't think that will benefit any society, especially countries like Ethiopia or the continent Africa. Although I know the Western culture, the pop culture dominates our ecosystem, our life now, we really have to be mindful of what we're doing and the results that we're getting from what we're doing today. We have different cultures. We have different way of walk of life, or practicing religion, or practicing meditation, or anything like that. What is different about self-help and the hustle culture that we're trying to adopt it? And what is the main reason for me to talk about this? Is it because I used to read books that are self-development before and no more I'm reading those books? Am I telling you about that? No. That's not the main reason I'm telling you about this. I have people around me trying to actually adopt or trying to embrace the culture, this kind of cultures, the hustle culture and the culture of self-development, including positive thinking, positive talking, reaffirmations, and things of that sort. And these people are not going anywhere. I understand their tribulation, or I understand the trouble that they are in, because I went through it, I passed through it. And why are they being hooked? I don't think these things are new. The way I was tricked, and I tricked my friends to getting into that mode, getting into that culture, the companies are doing it in a different form today. They're packaging it and repackaging it in a way that we want it. Now it is in video forms, it is in short forms, it is all over Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can have it everywhere. The question is it new? Is it original? Is it something that was not practiced before? Is the idea unprecedented? Was it not before there? One of the biggest promoters of self-help before and now a baptized critics of self-help, I believe, Mark Manson said, I heard him say this, it's a scam. Because all the ideas that are given out, that are sold today, were there in our philosophies, in the religions that our ancestors practiced.
This book changed my life. Hell, your f***ing book changed my life. Look, self-help books can help, but I think people mistake what they're actually doing. That there is nothing new really being said in any of them. There's nothing new in self-help. What was self-help called before it was self-help? Religion, philosophy. Most of the advice that we're all consuming when we buy these books had been covered for thousands of fucking years, but packaging, it turns out, is incredibly important.
People wrote really boring books about this kind of ideas, but now these ideas are being repackaged and being sold to the people, the individuals, the young people living right now. Do I agree with the points that he's making with regard to or about self-help books and self-development or the entire industry of self-help? Yeah, I agree with most of it because the repackaging is making a difference, and you're thinking that you're receiving a new kind of information and you're trying to act upon it, but never, because they don't need you to act on it and overcome the problems that you have, because there will not be a market tomorrow if you graduate today. You don't need to be graduating from that area. You need to be confined in that bubble, and you are needed to stay there for very long, because there is a product to be sold. There is a service to be sold. Who's going to buy it if you overcome your problem today? Plus, it's like a drug. Once you've been hooked, you're expected to be a customer, a recurring customer who's coming day in, day out, now and again, to buy that product, to buy that service, and everything related to it. So the philosophers said it before. They said it in a different way. So the packaging was wrong packaging. The religions that we have in the world said it before. It was somehow boring because our minds, because our experience today is really not inclined to understanding something boring as a word written in some religious book or literature of religion or literature of ancient text. It could be. Now it's really different. Although it's known that you're not going to practice it or act upon it, the ideas will be very simple for you to understand and to digest. Then acting upon those ideas and actually graduating from your problem or overcoming your problem won't be a reality. So what do we need to do? My concern is my fellow countrymen, people in this country or people in this side of the world, we don't have the luxury of staying in a limbo where we cannot overcome or where we cannot actually get a benefit out of. Because as it is, there is poverty, there are challenges that we're facing in life. Other than poverty, we need to figure out a way to overcome the problems we have. An additional problem we cannot handle. We're already swimming in this bubble, this problem. We have it in our songs now. I heard a song by a young, talented guy from Ethiopia promoting the culture of hustle and grinding. I don't have anything against that guy. But I'm not trying to generalize here. I'm not saying that the whole self-development or self-help book industry or the whole industry, not only of the books, is fake. I'm not saying that. There could be books that you read, and if you apply what you're reading or what you got from the books, that could help your life. That could help you overcome a problem that you have in life. I'm not denying that. There are actually some books that maybe the category of self-help that can help you a lot in life. I was reading Atomic Habit these days, maybe 2 weeks ago or something like that. It's about steady progress. It's about accumulating things or making what you want in life a habit. That's a good thing. I really encourage you to do that, to read that. But still, I do understand or I believe this is repackaged and this is being sold to us again. The wisdom was there. But for the wisdom to be properly sold, it needed to be repackaged and repurposed. But still, you can find practical advice, and if you apply those advice from these books, you can read them. But this perpetuating of the engagements The hooking up part is not what I advise you to do. If you read a book, one book, if it is self-help, after reading it, if you cannot practice one of the ideas, or if there is a strategy inside the book, if you cannot use that strategy to address a problem or achieve something, don't go to the next one. That's just a waste of time, energy, and a waste of intention as well. So understand that there are books, self-help books, that are just written to hook you, to make you stay in that circle, in that vicious circle. Understanding that there is that vicious circle, and reading one or two of those books and trying to apply whatever you got from that book and moving on is the best way. But if you cannot do that, convince yourself that it's time to leave. It's time to move on. Again, about the hustle culture, because these things are intertwined, are really related. Most of the self-help books tells you to work hard and wake up early in the morning, maybe around 4, and do exercise, do this and that. And before anyone starts their life or their morning, you have to finish your things, then move to the other thing. The notion or the understanding in there is you'll be having multiple things to do. So your life is going to be about doing them. It's not about living. It's not about understanding your values. It's not about being grateful about what you have in life. Maybe it could be about your family. Maybe it could be about the sibling you have around you, or the passion you have in life. Your life will be about to-do lists of this and that. You do this, then you go to the next one because someone else is doing better than what you're doing right now. And if you stop, that person will proceed to the next thing and he will achieve or he will win something. That's a perception. That shouldn't be your life. That's all about the hustle culture. Again, don't misunderstand me that I'm all about being intentional and achieving. But do you know what you're going to achieve? If so, you don't need to be task-oriented. You don't need to go from one task to the other. And your life being about that is a pity. Your life needs to be purpose-oriented, value-oriented. It should be about the values that you care about and trying really hard to achieve those values, because if it is about the purpose or the value that you have in life, if it is not about the to-do list that you have, there will not be burnout. There will not be resentment at the end. There will only be contentment or fulfillment in your life, and fulfillment is all we need. So that was it about self-help and the hustle culture. We have our own wisdoms. We have our own way of life. This wisdom, if applied, can help us propel or achieve a lot in life. We're not rejecting what is coming from outside, but we're contextualizing it and making it fit into what we have as a value in life. It doesn't mean that we have to embrace the values of other people living in the other part of the world. Although if that is what you wish to achieve, that's a very good thing again. I don't read self-help books because I'm not getting any value out of them. But if I think there is value, I'll still pick a book and read it. I don't care whether it's self-help or politics, economy, or history, biology, I read it. If I think I'll drive a value out of that thing, I wish you do the same. That way, Your time will not be spent in vain. Your time will be spent in achieving or in running after a value, in running after a purpose or mission. That's all I have for today. See you next time.